Hello and welcome to Rate That, the podcast where four mates are attempting to expand their horizons by trying out each other's recommendations. Each episode, one of us suggests a task to the rest of the group to try something they truly enjoy. We then get together to discuss our potentially friendship-ending opinions on something that is often very meaningful to a member of the group. Last time it was my turn, and I chose 3 Jay-Z mashup album projects for everyone to listen to. They are Jay-Z and Linkin Park's Collision Course, Max Tanone's Radiohead, and Danger Mouse's The Grey Album.
Alright then lads, so I think we should do them in chronological order. So the Grey Album came out first. So the Grey Album is Jay-Z's The Black Album mixed with samples from the Beatles' self-titled album, The Beatles. It's commonly known in the Beatles fandom as the White Album, which is why it became the Grey Album. What do you guys think?
So my overarching thing for this one was you have to be a big fan of one of the artists to think that it's the shit, as it were. And I like the Beatles, but not enough to think, though, this is a great album. And I don't really listen to Jay-Z. I never really have. And so I don't really give a shit about him either.
So introing you to Jay-Z with projects he hasn't made is not the best start.
Probably not. I mean, look, Jay-Z, he obviously does something right. Because, it's quite well known.
Should tell you something though, yeah. With quite a lot of these mix albums, 9 times out of 10 they take a hip hop album and then mix it into something else. Yeah, it's normally like a heavy metal or something along those type of lines. Sometimes you just don't need to do the mixed album. Like you didn't need to do this album. It was just shite.
They didn't need to do it, but someone decided that they should do it and then did. And before you completely lay into me. Both Jay-Z and the remaining members of the Beatles liked it when they heard it.
Jay-Z probably saw it as, mate, I'm going to get some more bank, so that's all right for me. The Beatles probably thought, I'm 400 years old now. My hearing's gone. But the thing is, I was hoping for something to bang, like, all the way through it. I listened to it when I was at the gym and I was like, right, there's going to be a killer here. There's going to be a great one here. And then I kept thinking all the way through, I was like, you know what? This didn't have to happen.
So I disagree on that. I've heard a few tracks anyway before we listened to this, but I'd never listened to it all the way through. But that's the thing, like I said, there's some certain songs of the Beatles that I like. So, and not being a Jay-Z fan, I didn't necessarily know what to expect. So, like, What More Can I Say and While My Guitar Gently Weeps. I think I'd heard that before, and I think that's probably the most recognisable remix of them. But that's an absolute tune, no doubt about it.
That's my personal favourite of the whole thing.
In fairness, that is the best one out of the album. I will admit that. But the thing is, like, I like the Beatles and I like Jay-Z separately. Them two together, to me, just wasn't gelling. Like, what did I write here? I wrote, this encore remix didn't work for me.
One of the YouTube comments on 99 Problems and Helter Skelter made me laugh. Someone wrote, this mix is so sick, it's my go-to version of 99 Problems, which I thought was absolutely hilarious because it's fucking shit. Like, there's 2 versions of 99 Problems that you could go to over this one. 2 other, but one of them's the original, and you're choosing this. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I can totally see that. I think that what tends to happen with these projects is one tune is absolutely amazing, and they do that one first, and then they go, let's do the rest of the whole album, and then they kind of have to like force stuff to work with one another. Like my Guitar Gently Weeps mixed with What More Can I Say, I think is better than Jay-Z's version of What More Can I Say, in my humble opinion.
That is good.
Do what? It's kind of like, you know when you hear remix or you hear mashup or a mashup album, it's like, have you ever heard the Papa Roach Rihanna track, Rude Boy and Last Resort? That really works.
Doesn't sound like it would.
If you like Papa Roach, innit? So if you like Papa Roach,
oh yeah, true, yeah.
And basically, if you like the main thing about Papa Roach, which is the guitars, really, that whole mix worked basically. Whereas this was it was just so slow, some of it as well. But some of those Jay-Z songs, I'm like, the original's better. There was no need to do this mix.
Ben, speak.
I was just letting you two get your opinions out.
Ben probably made love to this.
I mean, that's a weird thing to say.
That was a really weird thing. Cut that out, Tom. Cut that out. Weird thing to say.
No, I'm half going to come to Tom's aid here. This is the one of the 3 albums that I had not heard before. It did grow on me. The first time I put it on, it took me till I think track 5 to start thinking, okay, there's something here. Which I think is the one after Encore. Which, to be fair, anything after that Encore remix is going to be good, isn't it? But as the others have said, I think there are tracks that work and there are tracks that they've just gone, well, we've got to do something with these because they're on the album. And it doesn't quite work, specifically Encore.
Do we rate the Grey album?
I'm going to go ahead and say that I do not rate the Grey album, unfortunately.
I did not rate the Grey album. 100% not.
I'm going to sit on the fence and say, I think if I listen to it a couple more times, I could get there. There's definitely tracks on there that I could say I don't rate, but there are also tracks on there that I would happily listen to a few times. But as an album, probably I would have to say right now I don't rate it.
Okay, so that's 3-1 on the first album.
Podcast over. I don't want to hear your opinions on the rest.
If you're going to behave like that about this one, you can all fuck up. So the next one on the list, then the next one that came out was Collision Course, and this was done by the artists themselves.
This was going to be one of my questions: were the artists actually involved in these things?
Well, Ben, if you want extra homework, there is a documentary about the making of this album, which came as a bonus DVD disc if you bought the deluxe version of the album when it came out. Obviously, I did that.
Are you a fan of Jay-Z? I
dabble. Well, so according to the Wikipedia page on the Collision Course album, it says that they were inspired by the Grey album to do this, and it was part of an MTV thing that they were doing where they were asking artists to mash up their tracks together. So Jay-Z and Linkin Park got together in the studio, and Mike Shinoda basically cut these tracks together.
Legend.
I remember this being advertised on music television channels as like, this thing's coming, and I was like, this looks like the best thing I will ever have seen or heard. And I was not wrong. From the minute I walked home from Gloucester HMV and put it into my Sony Discman Walkman to listen to on the bus on the way home, I was not disappointed.
You could have got away with not aging yourself, but you just have.
Shit. So, what do you guys think? Before you start, one of the songs on this won a Grammy.
That doesn't mean shit. Mahershala Ali won Oscars, and you guys hated his voiceover for Chimp Empire.
Yeah, well,
he didn't win an Oscar for that, did he?
No, he didn't win an Oscar for Chimp Empire, but he's got a great voice in it.
You picked Chimp Empire out of your ass, because the rest of us are picking things that we like and adore and would suggest to people.
Yeah. I just happened to finish watching Chimp Empire.
So you can pipe down there.
Yeah, you've made that mistake once, so you're not going to do it again.
No. Right, I don't mind going first on this because Collision Course is one of my top 5 albums of all time. So I fucking love it.
Okay, next album. What do you think about
Moving on.
I didn't even have to listen to it because I listen to it like all the time. So I think there's only one song on it which I think is a bit crap because it's my favourite Linkin Park songs, and they mixed it in with Big Pimpin', which I just thought was shite. So Paper Cut and Big Pimpin', both of those together just don't work.
Yeah, you've just named the one track on this album I thought didn't work as well.
Yeah, well, this is it. Like, the main thing I love about Paper Cut is that doo-doo-doo-doo, like the guitar riff on it. Yeah, I love that. They took that away. I think when they went rock with hip hop lyrics, it was better than going hip hop beat with the rock lyrics. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Yeah,
and also the Numb Encore remix in this is the best remix of Encore.
I mean, if you haven't heard that, you've been
Where have
living
you
under
been?
a rock.
But the thing is, there's a lot of memories with that album. Do you know what I mean? Because I love Linkin Park. Like, they're one of my favorite bands of all time. I love them to pieces. And then I'm not a massive fan of Jay-Z. I like Jay-Z. I'll listen to his stuff. But this made Jay-Z even better for me.
See, I heard this and then went, I don't need to know anymore. Just give me these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tracks.
Yeah.
I don't need any more.
21 minutes and 18 seconds. That's all it is.
That's all the Jay-Z I need in my life.
Not long enough, if you ask me.
Josh, what's your take on this masterpiece?
So I am probably biased when it comes to Collision Course because I'm a huge Linkin Park fan. And I think that Hybrid Theory is the best album ever made. Well, one of them at least. And I think that doing it with Jay-Z was just, it just worked, didn't it? It was perfect. Like, out of the three that we've listened to, I've obviously listened to Collision Course the most anyway. Even if I hadn't, I think my main takeaway from Collision Course compared to the others was that the way they worked, it was how the lyrics worked best with which track, as opposed to let's just slam two tracks together. It was a case of, okay, which Linkin Park tracks work with a Jay-Z tune and vice versa. Like, so I just felt like that just made it that little bit more, just neater, if anything. Like,
I think possibly the fact that the artists were involved and things were potentially re-recorded specifically for this helps to give it that neater feel.
It's like Mike Shinoda being the police officer in 99 Problems. That helps. Those little things help along.
He does Jay's first verse for 99 Problems on that song as well.
that's it. I think, yeah, just obviously that is the underlying fact is that they're both, the artists were involved in making this. But you listen to some of these mixes and you realize there's such an insane amount of talent needed to take those songs, hear something and go, that works with that. I'm going to do that. Let's make it work. Let's get the beats to match. Let's do it. Like, obviously that's why they're good at what they do. But to even hear that in the first place, is just like, a talent's insane.
Yeah, I would say. I think with this one in particular, they used 2 albums worth of Linkin Park stuff and then 2 or 3 albums worth of Jay-Z stuff from his vast back catalogue at that point. So they were able to sort of pick and choose a little bit more. I always find it really interesting that Numb Encore isn't really like Numb. It's a real sort of stripped back hip hop, like electronic hip hop, Shinoda-esque beat. I think the reason why that track works so well is because they haven't like just tried to mash the rocky version of Numb with Encore. That wouldn't have worked at all.
Because obviously I'd listened to Collision Course, I went onto Wikipedia just to see how it was received, and on there I couldn't believe the review scores for this album. The Guardian gave it 1 star out of 5.
It was ahead of its time, mate.
No, NME gave it 3 out of 10.
What?
Rolling Stone gave it 2 out of 5. Spin gave it 3.5 out of 5, and Village Voice called it unfavourable. That's pretty fucking mad when you think about it. Because I'm a massive Linkin Park fan, because you guys are Linkin Park fans, because Tom, you're a massive Jay-Z fan. Are we in this bubble where we're like, it's fucking sick? Whereas you ask normal people that listen to these mashup tracks, they be like, it's fucking shit, mate.
You see what it is? I think you always get this with people who are professional reviewers or critics. They always try and be edgy or out there or whatever. The whole point of the album is that it's bringing 2 lots of fan bases together. If you're a Jay-Z fan, you're going to love it. If you're a Linkin Park fan, 9 times out of 10, you're going to love it. That's what it's really catered for, isn't it? So the people that love either one of them, Jay-Z's fan base is massive, Linkin Park's fan base is massive, so millions of people are going to love it.
Yeah.
So critics watch it like critics do it with films. There's so many films which are sick, which critics have watched. They've given it 2 stars.
So do you know what those critics can do, Kai? Is they can set up their own podcast and they can talk about it, and we won't listen to that. We'll just carry on talking about how much we love this project and this band.
We can critique their podcast and mark it really low.
That's true. We can do that.
I will say I tried really, really hard to find a negative thing to say about this album, and the only thing I could possibly say is the one track where they've mashed 3 tracks together. I did feel like potentially the transition into One Step Closer from Points of Authority was a bit clunky, and it was just one finished and the next one started, and they could have done something a bit better there. I don't know if anyone else agrees, or if you guys think I'm being stupid and you really liked how that worked.
You're being stupid. I think it's amazing.
Cool.
Yeah, I think out of all the tracks on that album, I think Izzo in the end is my least favourite. If I had to pick one,
I would go with Gigawatt and Faint as
Would
my
you?
least favourite.
So I like Faint. I love the song Faint.
I think it's Gigawatt that ruins it for me.
Oh yeah, cool. Mate. If I'm being brutally honest, Jay-Z fucking ruins them all. So, so see, there is some negatives. There is, we're not all completely biased on Collision Course.
No, I mean I don't mind Izzo in the end. I think that works quite well.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we're going to have a clean sweep here, aren't we?
I mean, I struggle to find anything wrong with it. So
Do you even need to ask us the question?
I don't think I do. I didn't think I needed to before we even hit record, to be honest. So the last one, Radiohead, which was mixed by a guy called Max Tanone. So I picked this one because I liked the other 2 mashup projects, and I thought 3's a nice number, 3 different things to listen to. But if I had to choose, this is my least favourite of the 3.
Oh, Tom, you've let me down there.
But there are some tracks in this that I think are really, really good. But as a whole project, it's not a coherent project. Whereas it feels like this guy's just picked this song goes with this Radiohead track,
Yeah,
and sort of put them together on a line.
See, for me, this was the first Jay-Z mashup album I ever heard. I think I heard this before I heard Collision Course, even though it came out later. And when I first heard this, I was like, there's not a bad song on this thing. This is incredible. Being a fan of both, well, kind of a fan of Jay-Z, but a big fan of Radiohead, I'm obviously going to like this album. That being said, having listened to it for this recording, there are some tracks that don't work. I am willing to admit that. But I will let the other 2 rip into it now.
You see, I actually didn't mind it. Out of the 3, I'd put second for me, which is odd. I actually don't like Radiohead. I don't like them at all. The tracks where Tom York actually says or does anything were the worst one for me.
I knew you'd say that. I knew you would say that.
Which one was it? It was No Karma. I was like, too much Tom York. It's terrible. So there was a couple of tracks which I thought actually banged. So Wrong Prayer, I thought was good. I thought that was great. I was actually like, that's decent.
That's track 1 as well.
That is track 1. As soon as I heard that, I was like, maybe it's not too bad then. 99 Anthems, there was no point doing that because it sounded very similar to 99 Problems. It's so similar. It was like, what is the point? The thing is, with this one, for me, it was kind of just like, it's all right. It's better than the Grey album. The Grey album I thought was shite. This, I can kind of get on board with a little bit more. But the problem is that we've just come off the back of talking about Collision Course, which for a lot of us, we've just said it's a perfect album. So how do you match to that, really? How do you match it?
But for me, personally, I'm gonna say it.
Don't say it.
This is on par. I've said it.
You can
I've said it.
Get the fuck out. Right, let me educate you then. Let me fucking educate you. Right.
Go on.
So, as a precursor to this is my first thing. I listened to this one first because I knew it was going to be the shittest of the lot.
Here we go.
And the first thing I wrote down was, as a precursor to this was probably the one I was least thinking I'd like, because I wouldn't say I'm a Jay-Z fan or a Radiohead fan. However, I fucking pressed play on track 1 and I went, actually, this is all right. My actual note was, I enjoyed the riff. However, I have a controversial opinion that might potentially get me killed in some circles, is that I'm pretty sure that's Beyonce's voice I'm hearing, and she's annoying to me. That ruined it for me.
Yeah.
99 Anthems, I wrote, once you've heard 99 Problems with Points of Authority and One Step Closer, it's hard to top, especially with a short, boring Radiohead track.
What I'm trying to say, you can't compare them.
Lucifer's Jigsaw, I literally wrote, that's a no from me.
I literally just wrote no as well.
And then by the time I got to track 5, I was really getting into it. And my note is Radiohead tracks just have fuck all to them. And I find Jay-Z's okay in terms of a bop. So to take that away from the track just makes this completely and utterly shit.
Oh dear. See, I could listen to Dirt Off Your Android all day long, every day.
Fucking wank. By the time I got to track 10, I wrote, I'm pretty sure this is the same as the 2 previous tracks. Then there was the extra ones. So was it 4 or 5 tracks on that extra release that the guy did?
Yeah.
See, now I think I've heard some of those, because Air Rock, I feel like I'd heard before, and I've written, I didn't mind it, and I was thinking these tracks will probably all be a bit better if I appreciated Jay-Z as a lyricist more, but I don't feel like they're a quick listen, if that makes sense. Like, they're not, to me, they weren't something that you could just, these tracks, like, I didn't feel like they were a track that you just put on. Like, obviously Ben would disagree, but like, I would never, these tracks never scream to me like, oh, do you know what I want to do? Unwind and like really have a little fucking bop to, or even just a headbang or whatever. I wouldn't choose any of these tracks, I don't think. And then Song and Cry, I'm pretty sure I'm 90% sure I'd heard that before, and actually quite like that one.
So that's probably the most famous one that got shared a lot.
Yeah, so I think I probably heard that one before, which is why maybe like in the back of my head, when I listened to it, I was kind of like, you've heard this before, so maybe, you know what I mean? You'll have heard this more than once. So that was why I was like, I kind of like, and Recliner's Encore, I felt like the same thing. I think I'd heard that before. But overall, I was just like, fucking hell. Like don't get me wrong, like Radiohead are an acquired taste, right? And their tracks, when you strip away Tom York's voice, are just as boring as when they are with fucking Tom York on them, because they're written that way. That's their style. Look, I catch heat for it from a Radiohead fan, but that's the way their music is. That is their style. Their tunes aren't about being like fucking bouncy and fucking happy. They're melancholy. They're slow. That's what they are. But I just do not like them. And then to just like take those slow tracks and just try and crowbar Jay-Z songs into them, to mash them two together, it just didn't work for me whatsoever.
It's interesting that you same take as me when you heard track one, you went, oh, this might be all right, and then as soon as you track Lucifer's Jigsaw, you're like, no.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'll take that. I'll take the fact that you put track 1 on and we're like, oh, maybe. I'll take that. I was expecting a lot worse. Or, well, I mean, Josh has just gone on for 10 minutes about how he hates everything about it.
Yeah, I've absolutely fucking destroyed it. But I tried, because the thing is, as soon as you mentioned it, I tried to steer clear of going, I'm going to hate that. I thought to myself, you know what? The whole point of this is we're going to have to try things that we don't necessarily want to do. So forget that you don't like Radiohead. Forget that. Like, just go into it. And I think that's why, for the first track, I was like, okay, let's go benefit of the doubt. The issue was then track 2 was completely a write-off because of Linkin Park, Jason. Because of that 99 Problems track, it was just straight away, it was like, oh, fucking hell, I was right to doubt it.
That is really interesting that, you were both pleasantly surprised to begin with, and then it fell off a cliff literally 4 minutes later.
The thing was, like, it actually felt like homework when I realised I had to do the 4 tracks as well. Like, you know, when you sat there, I was like, oh man, I just got through these 10, and then realised that there was more. I was like,
oh. I wanted to ask you, Tom. You said that you basically put this JDO Head one on there because you just wanted 3 albums. How much did you listen to it, and do you rate the JDO Head album?
No, I do like it. I do. There are some tracks on there that I think are really good. I really like. Is it Wrong Prayer?
Track 1.
Track 1, yeah. Track 1. I really like track 1, and that's how I actually found this project. Was it was on YouTube. Do you remember when people went through a phase of making their own versions of music videos,
Yes.
where they would just cut up clips and like mash them together to make their own like version of people's music videos? So I found this. I was like, hang on a minute, where's that from? And then found it. But I also quite liked Song Cry, which is now Song and Cry. Whenever I listen to that, I was like, wow, that's quite sad, that song there. I feel quite emotional.
I'm in tears. What's going on?
Yeah, that doesn't look good on the central line on the way into work.
Probably looks perfectly normal, to be honest.
So yeah, if I was to put them in order, it'd be Collision Course, Grey album, and then this of my personal favourites. I also quite like the name JDO Head as well.
It's great, isn't it? It works so well.
It's such a great name. I also wanted to try and pick something that you guys hadn't have heard of. So I was 99.9% sure you'd all have heard and adored Collision Course. And the Grey album was quite popular at the time when it came out. So you probably have heard bits. But I wasn't sure if you'd have heard this. But I wasn't expecting the absolute mauling it took.
I was, but I'd listened to it quite a lot before. I know what these two are like.
Radiohead are a boring band.
In your opinion,
Regardless, in my opinion or not, they're a boring band. Sometimes you don't need to remix certain things into certain things. When you peaked with Collision Course, you know what? You nailed it. It's a cult phenomenon, that album. Everyone I know from our generation loves that album. And it spans across everyone. People who used to be rockers, people who used to be hip hop heads, all of those type of skaters, all those type of people back in like 2006 plus. Yeah.
Well, I said earlier, if you haven't heard Numb Encore, you've been living under a rock, haven't you?
But so you nailed it with that, but then you suddenly sometimes you just don't need to do it.
Well, to be fair, this is some DJ producer that's put this together. He's probably seen how these other things have been made. So this was put together in 2009, so 5 years after the project.
Yeah, choose a better band than Radiohead then. To match it up with, do you know what I mean? There's better bands to do it with.
I mean, Radiohead have done all right for themselves, so someone must like them. You know what I mean?
Look. What it boils down to is, and I'm going to borrow a line from one of my favourite films. The guy was so preoccupied with whether he could, he didn't stop to think whether he should.
It's like mixing it with, for argument's sake, the Smiths. I hate the Smiths too.
Again, they've done all right for themselves.
There's probably a mashup out there somewhere that you can follow with the Smiths.
Yeah, and I'd love that as well.
Give me a minute, I'll find it on Bandcamp in 10 seconds. Yeah, so boys, do you... I think I know the answer to this question. Do you rate JDO Head?
I think it's safe to say that I definitely do not rate JDO Head.
I think all of us can say we rate track 1. After that, no, don't rate it.
Benjamin?
I feel like I'm in the minority again, but yes, I do. I do rate JDO Head very highly indeed.
There we go. I rate it as well. I wouldn't have suggested it if I didn't rate it. So it's a 2-all split there.
Well, you've done all right for yourself this week.
Yeah, all of you are still doing better than I did with Chip.
Well, that was the pilot episode, Kai. We were all learning. We were all trying to figure out what this thing was.
You also phoned in the homework that week.
Yeah, I did actually, yeah. And I had just finished it. But yeah, I feel like I got more than everyone else.
I don't know. I went pretty hard on JD. I had just
yeah, you did. So there we go. So it was a heady mix of really, really like it, but also really, really hate this. Tom, why have you suggested this? Which is kind of what I was like hoping for. So Ben, it's your turn, I believe, to give us all a suggestion. Have you got something for us to get our teeth into next?
Yeah, I've been going back and forth over what I wanted to get you guys to see, hear, read, whatever. And I think I'm going to go with something I'm almost certain that none of you will have seen before. It's not your mainstream television Netflix series. It's a YouTube series, and it's called No More Jockeys. I don't know if any of you have seen it before.
Never heard of it.
Cool. It's essentially 3 of my favorite comedians. They're all good pals, and over lockdown they started this YouTube series where they just recorded themselves on Zoom playing a stupid game that they'd made up. I really enjoy it because I enjoy the 3 people. The 3 people are Alex Horn of Taskmaster fame and the Horn section, Mark Watson, who is a stand-up comedian, and Tim Key, who is a poet and stand-up comedian.
Christ.
I don't think Josh is going to enjoy it very much.
3 of the most unfunny fuckers I've ever watched in my life.
See, they are 3 of my favourite comedians, but I feel like this is going to get a panning from at least 1, if not 2 of you.
I mean,
Tom was nodding along with those people, so hopefully he'll enjoy some of it.
I think the fucking challenge is find something I would fucking log.
Hey, you like collision course?
Yeah, true. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
We genuinely should just change this to Josh. Do you rate this?
We're open-minded on this podcast. I will give it a fucking bash.
We certainly are. I had to watch Ghost Adventures. We have to be open-minded.
we all had to watch Chimp Empire.
That's true.
I don't know if any of you are going to enjoy this, but I really enjoy it. That's the point of this thing, is to get you guys to tell me that I'm mental for liking it.
I told you you're mental for liking Radiohead earlier, so it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
but like I say, they've done very well for themselves, and I'm not in the minority there. There's a lot of people that like Radiohead.
Just not on this podcast, unfortunately.
Just not on this podcast. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the homework. There will be 3 or 4 episodes of No More Jockeys to watch on YouTube.
Brilliant. I look forward to it.
I will not.
Next time on the Rate That podcast.
Can I go first? 10 minutes in, I think I understand it. 12 minutes in, no, I don't get it.
My first note is, God, this is dull.
I'm never going to mention Chimp Empire again.
That was the most insane episode of all time. Behave.
The 90s called, they want their insults back.
Oh, shit, I just snorted. Cut that out.
Oh my God.
I will laugh at anything.
What fucking humour?
What is wrong with you?